policing the police every single day, and doing what the Charlotte County Sun newspaper and local TV stations won't do every single day.
Primary information. Description: Baker Act of James Sahid Kirdy Jr. Occurrence from February 21, 428. Reporting pool: Timothy 2041. Response information. Time dispatched: February 21, 432. Narrative. On February 21, 2020 at approximately 1628 hours while on marked patrol, I was dispatched to Punta Gorda, Charlotte County, Florida for an individual who was on the phone with the National Suicide Hotline. The hotline said they were on the phone with an individual who identified himself as a retired police officer named Jim Kirdy, later identified as James Sahid Kirdy Jr., subject. Hotline said subject told them he feels like his is obligated to call before he ends it. The hotline obtained an address for the subject using a phone book. The phone number the subject was calling from was and the caller ID identified it as belonging to subject's wife. The hotline relayed that subject was retiring next week. At 1633 hours, dispatch notified units that subject was an employee of CCSO. At 1635 hours that was corrected to him being employed by Desoto County SO. At 1637 hours, hotline advised deputies to be careful as subject just told hotline his wife was at work and that he was going to call 911 right before I do it so they can locate me. Subject then said he was going into the backyard. Numerous units were responding emergency by this time. At 1641 hours, hotline said subject's son had just arrived home, but subject would not let the call taker talk to him. At 1443 hours, dispatch relayed that subject told hotline I've got my gun sitting right here. Dispatch contacted DeSoto County Sheriff's Office and was told subject left work today at noon and he had a 45 calories Glock, an AR-15 rifle, and a shotgun. They did not know of any of his personal weapons. At 1647 hours hotline relayed subject was worried about financial things. Responding units began arriving and setting up a perimeter. The area around the house was cleared and the perimeter secured. At 1650 hours, dispatch notified units that subject was on the phone with the colonel from DeSoto County SO. At 1651 hours, dispatch notified units that subject hung up on the colonel. At 1652 hours, I called for emergency traffic as a SHIELD team was moving to check the backyard. CPL Shable declared the backyard was clear. LT Harrison called for a perimeter to be set up. At 1705 hours, I made contact with subject's son, as he was walking out the front door and directed him to walk to LT Harrison. At 1709 hours, subject walked out of the front door. I contacted him verbally and asked him to walk away from the house. Subject told me to leave and began to get upset once he saw how many units present. I asked the subject to answer his phone as LT Harrison was calling him. Subject refused to answer the phone. After several minutes, subject asked to speak with LT Harrison in person. LT Harrison met with the subject and talked with him about his call to the hotline. Subject admitted to calling the suicide hotline but claimed he was having a bad day. LT Harrison tried several times to explain to subject that he needed to speak to someone and units would not leave without him getting assistance. Subject told LT Harrison he was going back into the house to sleep. At this time, 2 members of the STAR unit were behind him. Subject looked at them and said they won't last 5 minutes. Subject began getting loud. Deputies grab hold of his wrists to prevent him leaving or becoming violent. Subject began bracing and pulling away. I applied handcuffs, double-locked, and he was escorted to my patrol vehicle where he was secured. At 1742 hours, I began the transport of the subject from the incident location to CSU. On the drive to CSU, subject kept repeating he was a 35-year veteran and began talking about an infant he picked up a couple of weeks ago, the number of homicides he's worked, the number of fellow officers he's buried, and said he had PTSD from all of it. Subject was verbally abusive and made continuous threatening statements. Subject repeatedly brought up the infant and all of the deaths he's seen. Once at CSU, subject said, "Oh, I have shortness of breath, then I'm having a heart attack, so you have to take me to the hospital." I called LT Harrison and he advised dispatch to send EMS to my location. After EMS was called, subject began laughing and said now the county has to pay for it. EMS arrived and evaluated the subject. EMS determined they needed to transport him to Bayfront Port Charlotte for further evaluation. Bayfront PC decided they needed to admit him overnight for observation. Units from Districts 1 and 2 arrived to stay with subject until he could be secured in a treatment facility. I contacted the suicide hotline and learned the call taker he spoke with is named Alyssa R, who was already gone for the day. I was told there is a record of the call and the exchange in the computer that is stored under the phone number used by the subject. I was also informed the only way to obtain a transcript or further information about the call is to request the information using the Contact Us button on the website suicidepreventiononlyfeline.org to send the request. At 1630 hours on February 21, 2020, I responded along with District 4 and STAR units. 2. For a subject threatening suicide. Dispatch received a call from the suicide hotline, who advised they were on the phone with the subject identifying himself as Jim Kirdy, a retired law enforcement officer. Jim Kirdy is known by the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office as a past deputy of CCSO, retired Punta Gorda Police Department officer and currently working for the Desoto County Sheriff's Office. Dispatch stayed on the line with the suicide hotline as units responded and provided updates given to them per the conversation with James Kirdy. Kirdy told the hotline he felt obligated to call before he ends it all. Kirdy said he was going into the backyard and will call 911 right before he does it so they can locate him. Kirdy said he has his gun sitting right here, describing it as a Glock 40, 45 calories handgun. Prior to arrival, James Kirdy stated that his son had just arrived home. The first units on scene established a SHIELD team, equipped with lethal and less lethal capabilities and deployed to the rear of the residence while one unit maintained a visual on the front of the residence. Kirdy was not located in the backyard where he indicated on the phone he was going. As additional units arrived on scene, a perimeter was established to prevent Kirdy from leaving on foot. STAR units began to arrive on scene and were assigned to form an immediate action team, SHIELD, lethal and less lethal, and meet with the deputy located at the front of the residence, side 1. I attempted to call James Kirdy by phone but his phone went directly to voicemail. A few minutes later, the son of James exited the residence from the front door. He complied with deputy's direction to meet with me at the command post. I spoke with who confirmed that his father was going through what he described as a mental breakdown over the last several weeks. He states he has been hallucinating and saying he is seeing dead babies in the freezer at their home. When he opens it and it reminds him of a case he worked where a dead baby was put Into a freezer. He said he drinks heavily and takes sleeping medication to help him with nightmares. Said he recently went off on him when he heard a child crying, stating James told him that the crying baby reminded him of a past investigation he worked involving a sexual battery on a small child. Said, when he arrived home today, James told him, "You can't help me and your mom can't help me." Then James went into his room and shut the door. Said his dad has nobody to talk to about his problems and he refuses to speak with the therapists because they haven't seen what he has seen. Said James has several handguns and at least 2 rifles in the home that either belong to Desoto or personal owned. While speaking with units advised James had stepped out the front door of his residence. Initially he was non-compliant and refused to walk out to the deputies until he learned I was on scene. James asked that I meet with him. I saw James standing in the driveway of the residence and was not armed. While speaking with James, who appeared to be intoxicated, he told me he is suffering from PTSD. He said he did CPR on a small child today who did not survive. I later spoke with COPWATCH from Desoto who advised they did not have a child fatality in Desoto County today. It appeared James was flashing back to an incident earlier in his career. James was obviously in mental crisis and poses a significant danger of causing harm to himself. Once James realized he would be taken into protective custody under Baker Act, he became resistant, stating he did not meet Baker Act criteria. He was taken into custody without incident. RPO evaluation checklist completed and on-call RPO Detective Resty was called out for further investigation. Desoto Colonel Vital and Lieutenant Woods responded and took possession of Desoto owned firearms and patrol vehicle. All other firearms were removed from the residence by the wife of James and given to a family member. Said no other firearms are in the home. Lieutenant Brian Harrison. Narrative. On February 21, 2020, at approximately 1630 hours, while on marked uniformed patrol, I responded to Punta Gorda, Charlotte County, Florida, in reference to a suicidal subject. Upon arrival, I was met by Corporal Shable where we staged approximately 75 yards west of the above address on Eager Road, and prepared for additional units to arrive. While developing a plan, Central Dispatch was providing updates such as the W/M subject now identified as James Kirdy was a deputy with Desoto County Sheriff's Office. James had several weapons, and had contacted the suicide hotline advising them he planned to kill himself. After several other units arrived and set a perimeter, Corporal Shable assembled a takedown team, which included myself, Corporal Shable, DFC Nix and his trainee Thomas Corbin. At that point, our team advanced to the 2-3 corner of Eager Road, next door to the incident location on the west side, and established cover behind a shed at the rear of the property. During this time, there was unknown activity occurring at the front of the residence, but I could hear there was verbal contact between parties, which I later discovered was Deputy Poole, who had made contact with James when he exited his front door. Myself, and the rest of the takedown team held our position behind the shed for approximately 15 to 20 minutes, until other deputies were able to establish scene security, and verify that James was not armed. At no time, during the course of the incident, did I observe James holding any type of weapon, but he did appear extremely agitated, yelling obscenities at deputies and tensing up while being taken into protective custody. James was secured in the back of DFC Poole's patrol SUV, and I followed as he transported James to Charlotte Behavior Health. On scene at Charlotte Behavior Health, I parked my patrol SUV directly behind DFC pools, and could hear James' outbursts, as well as see his vehicle rocking side to side, due to James' movements in the back seat. A short time later, DFC Pool advised Central Dispatch that James was complaining of chest pains, and stated he was having a heart attack. Moments later, Charlotte County EMS responded to Charlotte Behavior Health, was treated/assessed, in the back of the ambulance, and later transported to Bayfront Port Charlotte Hospital, and admitted into the cardiac unit. At approximately 2130 hours, I returned to the above address and was able to secure James' concealed carry weapons identification card, which was surrendered to me by his wife, now identified as W/F. A property receipt was completed and signed by, and she was provided a copy for her records, as well as an agency business card with the case number written on it. The CCWID was entered into evidence as safe keeping. In addition, signed a risk protection order notice to family, household member, or third party. Worksheet which was attached to the case retained a copy.
COPWATCH, policing the police every single day.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and we are coming up on a shitload of cops down the road from my house, and something bad is happening, man. This could possibly be Kirdy. He lives right down the road from my house. He's ex-military. And he used to work for Punta Gorda cops, Charlotte County cops, and now he works for Desoto. I've had problems with him. I don't know if it is Kirdy, but they're all down by his house right now. Oh, god damn it. This is Kirdy. Fucking A. Is that Kirdy? Are you serious? This is fucking Kirdy's house? This is Kirdy. This is a cop. Fucking A. Jesus Christ. Told you, psycho. I fucking told ya. I'm gonna go back down here. I live down here. I've already called the news, man. They're coming. Set it up. I don't see it yet. I am the news, man, and I called more news. They're coming.
That's fine.
That's great. Okay, is this Kirdy, the cop?
I can't identify who it is. I just got here.
I know he is Kirdy. I've had problems with him. I told you guys that this guy was psycho and you did nothing. Now look what you got. Jesus. This is one of your ex-boys. You know that, right? Hey, you guys shoot everybody else. Are you going to shoot him? Or he's an ex-cop? Or he is a cop, so you won't shoot him? Bill Permel just said on video, anybody with a gun, you'll shoot him. You better shoot him. Bill Permel said you'll shoot him, shoot him. What? They're gonna leave you here to shoot the press? Is that what's up? Oh, that's more important. Let's shoot the press, not the bad guy cop. Okay. Did they just arrest Kirdy?
Huh?
Did they just arrest Kirdy?
I don't know.
What? Dude, you shoot everybody else. Why didn't you shoot him? What's going on?
Huh?
Your sheriff just said, I'll shoot anybody, but yet you didn't shoot him. What's up? I don't know either. How, is that fair? Is it because he's a cop? That's interesting. I guess that'll be the story. You guys shoot everybody else, but not when it's a cop. That's fucking weird.
It's nice out, eh?
You guys are a piece. Hey, Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH. I am using any video here with under fair use if you have criticism, reporting, teaching, etc. And please donate. I do not make money from YouTube, and there are different ways to donate in the video links. Thanks.